There is a major breaking news story coming out of the United States Army right now and the U.S. military in general that is going to absolutely make your jaw hit the floor. Those of you who have been following the channel, especially for the last couple of years, you're going to see this information and you are going to laugh hysterically, wondering how did the Florida Maquis know a year and a half ago this was going to happen? Because that's when we started talking about it. Now stick around to the end of the video. You're definitely going to want to see all the information on this. Now, what are we talking about? About a year and a half ago, I started asking people, hey, there's a couple of series out there you might want to check out because they do a really good job of showing what happens on the ground, behind the scenes, when the finances get really, really tough. If there was ever a major collapse in this country, now there would be some very difficult conversations between married couples. They would have to do some things that they never thought they would have to do, and some of it would be kind of, well, I've referred to it as morally gray area. Trying to keep it PG-13 here for the YouTube audience. But most people got the idea when they watched Colony and other series about sometimes morality and survival, they just don't match up very well. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Now, I underestimated, and this was my fault, the prudishness of North American conservatives. I really wasn't expecting the pushback that I got, but this is going to be an eventuality. People having to do whatever you got to do to bring in the cash. Now, what if I told you the United States Army has now seen the light on this, and they're using these tactics to get young soldiers to sign up? You see, the same tactic that I alleged was going to be used to bring in extra cash is now being used by the United States military to get people to sign up. These influence operations. But real quick, just want to always be diligent and never forget before we get too deep into this to say thank you to everyone who has continued to show up here, Florida Maquis YouTube channel, and of course the Florida Maquis Patreon channel as well. It's only $1 per month. I know that doesn't seem like a lot to people, but really when large groups of people engage this way, and it kind of dovetails with the topic of today's subject, it makes a huge, huge difference. For only $1 a month, gloves off content, no censorship. You can say what you want, generally speaking. 99% of comments go right through with no problem. You can't, of course, harass anybody. Can't attack anybody, but it's fully refundable. If it's not for you, first 90 days, no questions asked. We partner with Vimeo so we can do that now. Florida has had the benefit of this for a long time. It's existed in the background, so it's been invisible. But make no mistake, billions, tens of billions of dollars come into Florida every single year, not because of Disney, not because it's just warm, not because it's historical, but one reason, the beaches. And the beaches are not unoccupied. This is just the reality, and it's been the reality since time immemorial. You can either accept it and deal with it, or, you can just live in a fantasy world. Now, given how much money comes into Florida, you could make the allegation that every girl walking around the beach in a bikini should be entitled to some type of a royalty. Since they're the primary driver, they're the ones bringing in the guys with the money. Shouldn't they be entitled to some share? Well, guess what? Online, some women have figured this out, and there are platforms that have been stood up, and they're making a ton of money. Now, a lot of people they revile, like, oh, it's terrible, it's horrible, it's immoral. Wait till you read today's article. You're not going to believe this. Weaponizing e-girls. How the U.S. military uses YouTube and TikTok to improve its image. Amidst failing approval ratings and lack of recruits, the Pentagon has chosen a new tactic: viral TikToks made by PSYOP agents. Really? U.S. military personnel often share their everyday life on TikTok. Some joke around and play pranks on their companions. Others share what they do and eat in the Army. One of today's most popular military influencers is Haley Lujan, also known as Lunchbag Lujan. Lujan is known for her provocative, somewhat cynical sense of humor, friendship with Eric Trump, and the fact that she is not a simple soldier but a specialist in PSYOPs, psychological operations. The career platform for U.S. military recruits states that soldiers are known for their communications expertise, using unconventional tactics to persuade and influence foreign allies and enemies in support of U.S. Army objectives. Now, stop right there. What has this channel been trying to do? What have we been trying to do? Over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel, we talk about these exact psychological operations. I've said, do you want to know what they're doing? Do you want to know how they're doing what they're doing? Do you want to know why? Do you want to be able to identify it when you see it? That's what this channel has been doing for the last 2 years almost. Begging people, please, come get trained. Come learn these tactics, the 24 cognitive biases, the 24 logical fallacies. And I will show you. How do I know this? This is what I did in the military. Long time ago. I've been a civilian for a long time. And when I started seeing this come out in the media, I'm like, wait a minute. This is the crap they taught us to do to people, but not on the internet. In real life, way back when I was in. And now they're using platforms to reach so many more people. Luan's subscribers allege they are aware of this. They assume that her account is part of a carefully designed marketing strategy. The influencer's goal is to help bolster the reputation of the U.S. military, particularly in the eyes of Zoomers. Or as the authors of Know Your Meme say, to get simps and the dudes who reply to every picture of BOOBS with, oh my gosh, direct message me to enlist. Empty barracks. The U.S. Armed Forces. Now pay attention here. We've talked about this too. The U.S. Armed Forces have been experiencing a shortage of volunteers for several years. Despite reductions in military staff over the past 40 years, the number of personnel decreased by nearly half. The service is still short on recruits, meaning we don't even need as many now as we used to when I was in, and we can't even fill those roles. In 2022, the military only managed to recruit 45,000 servicemen out of a planned 60,000. As a result, the Secretary of the Army, pay attention here, Christine, female, Wormuth, announced that members of the National Guard and the Army Reserve may be called up for active service. Units could also be further reduced since it may be impossible to fully staff all existing detachments. Recruitment to the Air Force and Navy was more successful, but only because it involved candidates who were not able to start service in 2021, meaning they had kind of a holdover. Now, here's where you got to pay attention. The personnel shortage can be attributed to several causes. First, the U.S. doesn't have enough suitable candidates. Entry requirements vary based on the service branch of the armed forces, but the main criteria are similar. A candidate must be between ages 17 and 35. Yeah. They must be physically and mentally healthy. They must be physically and mentally healthy. Now, who would describe the Zoomers, modern Zoomers, as either physically or mentally healthy? Nobody. They are all under some type of treatment for something because they identify with this or that, or this other issue they've had, or they're afraid of this and their own shadow scared them this morning. And the physically part about it is ridiculous. That they have completely demonized masculine culture to the point where working out to the point where you have six-pack abs or you have cut muscles, that's a negative. That's a bad thing. High school diploma, entry test for corresponding branch, U.S. citizen, immigrant green card. Despite the relatively simple requirements, finding the right people hasn't been easy. According to a recent Pentagon study, only 23% of young people in the U.S. are fit to serve. The rest have health problems. obesity, mental disorders, and addictions. Oh, how is that whole legalizing weed working out for you? How is that whole legalizing weed working out for you? This situation has been aggravated, of course, by the you-know-what pandemic, as isolation significantly affected U.S. children and took a toll on their physical health. Moreover, lockdowns have made young people more indecisive. Studies show that men who studied in high school remotely and engaged in less communication with peers are more likely to postpone important decisions such as applying to universities or joining the armed forces. Recruitment is also getting harder because of an increasing number of young Americans who suffer from addictions. For example, alcohol and drug abuse disqualifies about 11% of those who are otherwise fit to serve. Additionally, marijuana, legalized in some form or another, is now legal in most states. However, those using the substance still cannot enlist in the military. High school dropouts are another problem affecting military service. In 2020, 3.2 million students graduated from high schools in the United States. 3.2 million students came out of high school, and they only managed to recruit 45,000. 45,000. Think about that. Even if the U.S. had twice as many healthy and educated young people, the armed forces would still face a shortage of volunteers because the population no longer holds the Army, or most of the military, in high esteem. The chaotic withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan, divided political system, disputes about the role of NATO, the military criticized by politicians on both the left and the right for different reasons. Some say that it's a bunch of racism, homophobia, and imperialism. The military is totally woke. Skeptics also point out the cynicism of the law, which considers 17-year-olds not old enough to buy a can of beer, but old enough to die and kill for the sake of obscure goals. Ethnic groups, all of these issues. Neither traditional propaganda or the protection of freedom nor progressive ads about minorities in the Army have been of much help. In 2018, public trust in the military. In 2018, trust in the military was 70%. In 2022, 48%. So what are they doing? They're recruiting e-girls. They're recruiting e-girls to literally go to the final well of what makes young men respond. Oh, and look. Eric Trump. Imagine that. This is what they're having to do. It's absolutely insane. Now, those of you out there who think you are prepared for a survival situation simply because you've got 27 guns, 250,000 rounds of ammunition, and 52 giant 6-gallon tubs of Mountain House, you're out of your mind. No man is an island. No man is an island. I mean, I guess if you want to call that surviving, locking yourself in some underground bunker and doing nothing but eating beans, refried beans, reconstituted beans and rice. But survival is going to be a lot more complicated for those who actually want to have a life. And you can look this up. There's a line from an old Larry Gatlin song that I think applies to every single survivalist prepper out there. Just existing makes dying look awful easy. The rest of that is maybe tomorrow. I've done enough dying today is the song. I've done enough dying today is the name of the song by Larry Gatlin. Just existing makes dying look awful easy. There's going to be people out there that believe life is going to be more than just head down in a bunker waiting for the end of the end. So it's been there forever. This idea of, subtle sexuality to drive income, Well, now it's more than just subtle, because things have gotten that bad. And look, I know I pick a lot on the Trump folks and the folks on the right. This is way, 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 way over on the left. This is Abby Martin from way back when she was with RT. This is the reason a lot of people even have heard of RT. There were people around the world that had no idea who RT was or what they stood for or what their mission statement was, but they know they wanted to tune in to watch Abby Martin talk about it. And that's just the reality, and I think she'd probably tell you that too, to be honest. But a year and a half ago, because of the amount of money that was being transacted and how much it had grown, this idea of that type of influence online, I said, you mark my words, this is going to be a much bigger thing than people are giving it credit for. And now we see it coming to pass. There are going to be people that are going to be backed into a corner financially. Believe me, when the property issues start to add up, and the banks start to have to deal with those defaults and all of the evictions, all of the layoffs, everything else starts to add up, and people don't have the money to buy the things, and the people who counted on those people buying things start to lose their businesses. Somebody's going to say, look, this is just a case. I know you're not a giant fan of this. I know you don't like it. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. But it's going to be the reality. This is what I'm going to have to do to go bridge that gap. And look, the United States Army was so backed into a corner this way that this is what they have had to do. It's what they have had to do. To literally get guys to beg, and plead to get guys to sign up. This is what they've had to do. And you have to think about this now from the other side of the equation. There are going to be a lot of women out there going, wait a minute. It's a brand new gold rush. And I can do it from home. For some women, it's going to be like the gold rush of the 1800s. And they don't even have to leave the house. Think about that. So, I'll leave it there. God bless. Do you want to know how they've been able to sneak this by a lot of people for the last year and a half and nobody know about it? PSYOPs. 24 cognitive biases, 24 logical fallacies. If you want to, as a primer, you can look those up for free. Those are available online. Just type that in, 24 logical fallacies or 24 cognitive biases. And it'll take you to websites where you can study those all on your own. You ain't got to give me $1. But if you want to see how you can take those tactics in the real world and translate them into a weapon, join us. It's only $1 US per month. Would love to have you. God bless. Have a great week. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.